So, a new game about the French Revolution has just came out, and this is the kind of thing I've wanted to see forever. Like, inject it directly into my veins. It is a strategy RPG set in the French Revolution. You play Napoleon, male or female, and his name isn't Napoleon, it's Bonaparte, Celine, and Caesar. Okay. All these different factions in the French Revolution. Which makes sense for Napoleon, is that his politics were whatever. Sure, he started as a Jacobin, but then he did declare himself dictator and then emperor. But that seems to be a major theme in French Revolution games, playing with all the different factions. It's almost a revelation of character. And there is a quiz online that really builds on this concept.
This for a first date question. What is your perspective on the French Revolution? I think with the right date it could go over well, but that might just be my taste. There's this site, Go to Quiz, with an amazing quiz. Who are you in revolutionary France? This quiz aims to give you some idea of the issues at stake over the course of the French Revolution, from the storming of the Bastille in 1789 until roughly the rise of the Directory in 1794. See where your answers match up with the various factions in the revolutionary landscape. Take this quiz an extra time or two and play with your answers to see what results you obtain. While there is a rough and ready assessment, the aim is to give you some idea of the diversity of political tendencies that took shape during the Revolution. I've taken this quiz quite a few times. I've gotten different results because the questions, my thoughts about the questions would change a lot. So let's get started. Question 1. What role should the monarchy play in the new France? All of the king's former powers must be restored. He answers to God alone, not to the estates or anyone else. Nah. So I'm not going to pick this one. The king should serve as head of the nation in a new constitutional order. A strong executive is needed to counter the excesses of democracy. The king should have a limited role as first citizen for the sake of stability, but sovereign power ultimately derives from the nation. We want a republic! The monarchy is a corrupt relic and must be swept away to inaugurate a new era of equality. How do you like those voices? I'm trying to make the more royalist position more stuffy, and then less more bourgeois in the middle too, and then the the sans-culotte. It's like hey, if you're farming or doing industrial work all day, obviously not later industrial work, but early industrial work, yeah, man. What do I think? I'm kind of okay with the king as first citizen. Because, the first one is just, religion rule. No. The second, the problem with the strong executive in the power of the crown is, there's not really much of an accountability mechanism. The crown should serve as a figurehead, all sovereignty rests in him. But that doesn't mean anything. It's like Tolkien's One Ring, whereas the actual governance is with the National Assembly. Let's go to question 2. How far should political participation extend in the new order? Frenchmen are subjects, not citizens. Their true rights and liberties come from the sovereign, and the nobility should take the lead in the state, as they always have. While all citizens have certain basic rights, not everyone has the right to participate in political life. Property and education qualifications should strictly separate active from passive citizens. All men should have the right to have their voices heard at the ballot box, though actual governance should be left to representative institutions.
The common people are the guardians of the revolution, and their will must guide the nation, not that of a few elites. Democracy can't be confined to the assembly, but must take place in the streets.
So what's interesting about these first two questions, and the whole quiz, it shows you what the French Revolution was. It wasn't just all the peasants storming the palace immediately. It was a gradual process from 1789 to 1794. And all of these positions were reflected in different factions. But how would I go? Well, Frenchmen are subjects? No, it's nonsense. Not everyone has the right to participate in political life? No, everyone has the right to participate in political life. Because legitimacy comes from the maximum number of stakeholders. If they have no stake in society, in their state, they have no interest in maintaining the state. All men have their right to have their votes heard at the ballot box. The actual governance with representative institutions, like, that makes sense. That seems sensible. Because, I used to not believe that mob violence was a real thing, that it was made up by people who would answer questions like this. No, we just want to maintain our power. No, man. If Twitter has shown us anything, it has shown us that mobs are scary. So I'm going to go with the second from the bottom one. Let's move on. What role should the church and religion play in French society? France is the eldest daughter of the Holy Church, and the rights of the clergy must be maintained. Republican radicalism is a dangerous atheist conspiracy. Certain abuses in the church should be corrected, but the church's privileged position in society is important for social stability. The clergy should lose their unfair privileges, and the church should be subordinate to government control. The superstitious excesses of Catholicism should be curbed, but atheism is a threat to public order. Some sort of belief in a supreme being is important to a virtuous society. Priests are blood-sucking challenges, and their kind should be wiped from the land. Man is the measure of all things. Yep. Sorry, I'm a hard-line anti-clericalist here. Yeah. I don't trust clerics generally. And all the justification for them, just it seems nonsense, quite frankly. There are people who complain about the professional managerial class. But, guys, the clergy was the original professional managerial class. Instead of, law or finance, it was sacred texts. Yeah, I'm a hardline secularist here. How do you view Let me start again. How do you view the prospect of war with the monarchical powers of Europe? Foreign invasion would be a blessing if it means the restoration of the Bourbons to their God-given power. The revolution is a threat to the stability of all legitimate governments. France should defend itself if absolutely necessary. But war does not bode well for the success of the revolution. Moreover, the revolution's ideals cannot be imposed abroad at gunpoint. No one likes armed missionaries. The crowned heads of Europe should tremble before our armies. War against foreign powers is not only a patriotic duty, but an opportunity to liberate oppressed peoples beyond our borders. Yeah, no, I'm in the middle here. Don't do the war. So, at this point, yes, there was a declaration of Pillnitz when Austria, Prussia, and Russia partitioned Poland, and then they warned France, don't do anything with Louis XIV. And it was more about geopolitics and posturing than let us conquer democracy. Wah! I mean, there was a little bit of that. But remember, geographically, Austria controlled Belgium. What would become Belgium. It was the Austrian Netherlands. So any war would be fought there. That is why the French, which was still a monarchy at the time, so Louis was down with it, this is why they declared war on Austria. And he really got to get into the nitty-gritty to understand why this decision was made. Because the initial folks who made 1789, they were out of office in like 1791. And the guy who made that decision was Maximilien Robespierre. He passed this act, I think, not the Enabling Act, but something that would generate a new cadre of assembly members. He was like, we made this, someone else needs to make it. Ironically, Robespierre was against the war, but that's really where everything went crazy. A real what-if old history is what if the French hadn't declared war? Whole world history would have been different. Let's go next. What role should the state play in the economy? The old system of mercantilism and local monopolies works best. The state should play an active role in enhancing national prosperity and power. The more corrupt features of the old economic system should be removed carefully, and the rights of property owners must be protected. However, there should be no sudden upheaval in political economy. Prosperity is a fundamental right, and all men must be given the opportunity for profit from their own labor. Open markets and the demise of unjust monopolies and privileges will create a prosperous society. The old regime's system of economic privilege was corrupt and must be abolished. At the same time, the state must take a firm stand against speculators and market manipulators in order to safeguard the revolution. Profit can be no excuse for betraying the nation. The welfare of the common people must be paramount, even if it means far-reaching government controls. The state must ensure the provision of basic commodities and protect the public from the greed of merchants. Corrupt financiers are scourges of the people and must be crushed. All prosperity and economic inequality must be abolished. Only then will we be truly free and equal. Oh man, this is a hard one. This connects the beginning of the long 19th century with the end of the long 19th century. It's like so fundamental. What role should the state play in the economy? Oh man. It's like the bottom four. The bottom four. I don't know, because how can you tell if it's a speculator, a market manipulator, or just someone who wants to generate capital? I'm kind of going with this one here. Not pure open markets. Because before the revolution, the French tried open markets and prices exploded. And that made peasants very unhappy. It's like, everything's so expensive now, I can't afford anything. I think this is a good balance. All right, here's a nasty one. What are your thoughts on slavery in the French colonies? All this talk of equality can only end in anarchy, whether at home or in the colonies. We should attempt to reform and improve the conditions of slavery before we decide on its ultimate fate. More radical measures will only threaten the stability of colonial society. Slavery is immoral and should end, but it will take a long process of development and education before freed slaves are ready to take up the responsibilities of citizenship. All Frenchmen of all colors are part of the universal republic and must be accorded the full rights of citizens. I guess this is an easy one, Abolitionists won, and they deserved to win throughout the 19th century. This isn't the controversial one. The controversy would be picking anything other than the last one. All right, number 7. What should the relationship be between the government in Paris and the provinces? So basically, how federalized and how centralized should France be? This is something France struggles with today. The ancient institutions of France's diverse towns and regions are safeguards against tyranny. The centralizing madness of Paris is trampling over hallowed customs and rights. The tangle of regional laws and institutions is in need of reform, and a strong central government is necessary. That said, the country cannot run as if it were a homogeneous blank slate, and some forms of local governance are a necessity. The nation is one and indivisible. Any form of federalism can only weaken the sovereignty of the united French people. Strong central government is needed to defend the revolution from her enemies. Federalism is a nefarious plot against the working people of Paris. Paris is the heart of the revolution, and her people must be satisfied, even if that means maintaining strict controls over the economy of the provinces to ensure a standard of living for the urban masses. When all forms of privilege and inequality whatsoever are abolished, the problems of center and periphery will disappear. Oh man, see, this is an interesting one. This is an interesting one indeed. How much should be centralized in Paris? How much should be a union of France? You know, it's fine. I generally avoid the top option, but I kind of think it's okay here. Think about it. If Versailles is the center of government, Paris can't dominate over all the hexagon, all of France. And that should probably be a better basis for new governance than Paris as the center and everyone having to follow it. I'm willing to be persuaded of other perspectives, and it's definitely a reformable position. But the best way to maintain equality amongst the nation. Yeah, no, it's the top one. It's the top one. Maybe the middle one. But of course, it's all dependent on whether France wars or not. Here's the fundamental one. 8. What are your thoughts on the rights of man? A diabolical fiction and a mask for subversion. They are real enough, but we can only hope to protect them if we first establish a strong and stable government. Order precedes justice. They are the fundamental basis of any true constitution, and any government that does not take them as its basis is illegitimate. Abstract equal rights are one thing, but real material equality for everyone is the goal. Well, Taiwan is just whining. Order precedes justice? Well, I mean, what's justice? What's order? That's sensible. They are the fundamental basis of any true constitution. Yeah, any government that's illegitimate. But then again, people's material conditions are important. But I think you have to establish government first, and this is the best way to do that. Number 9. Oh, this is spicy. What do you think about the terror in defense of the revolution? The revolution's grotesque violence only goes to show that it is God's judgment on France for its wickedness. Terror and slaughter is a natural consequence of allowing democracy to reign unchecked by authority. The revolution must be able to defend itself against its enemies, including by terror, but its zeal must be tempered to avoid spinning out of control. Against the enemies of the revolution, terror is not simply expedient, but virtuous.
No faithlessness to the cause can be tolerated. The more pitiless our response to reactionaries and traitors, the better in the long run. The newly liberated masses must be allowed to wipe out their oppressors, even when they falsely call themselves revolutionaries. Let them fear the people.
Oh man, so this is fun.
Ah,
It's like, all right, the top one is just, come on, man. Come on, you think of Mark Twain, the long terror and the short terror. I mean, yeah, all the massacres done that was bad. That was a failure to establish political order. I mean, I'm leaning towards the second one because the bottom three are too bloodthirsty. Because the terror is bad. The terror is really bad. Yeah, not the bottom two. I don't even like the third one. Yep. Okay. Terror and slaughter is a natural consequence of allowing democracy to reign unchecked by authority. Yeah, because that's what mob violence is. A group of people say, this guy must die. Like, come on, you can't do that. All right, number 10. What is your view of human nature? Man is sinful, and hence governments are instituted by the Almighty to restrain him. Human beings are essentially good and rational when allowed to freely cooperate with one another. Excuse me. But they are corrupted by unjust institutions. Human beings are defined by their material circumstances and can only realize their full potential when those circumstances are transformed. Oh, man. I think it's actually the bottom one. I think it's the bottom one. I mean, the top is just, hail God and like, fuck off. Whereas this one, humans are essentially good. And they're not necessarily corrupted by unjust institutions. It's material conditions, first and foremost. Well, let's look over where our selections were. Kind of all across the board. Moderates in the first two. One radical. Another moderate. Another moderate. Radical. Reactionary. Semi-radical. Conservative. Radical. Let's see what I get. I'm a feuillante. On the one hand, you are hopeful that the revolution will advance the rights of man and bring radical and lasting change to France. On the other hand, you distrust the popular societies and working class rabble-rousers and suspect they will ruin the revolution's chances. Representation's what needed, not direct democracy. Politics should happen in the National Assembly, not on the streets. While there is no going back to the old regime, a limited form for the king under a new constitution is desirable. You oppose war with the European monarchies and efforts to export the revolution by force. And here are the other factions, the Girondins, the ones who declared war in the first place, the three different Montagnards, Danton, Robespierre, Hébert, Enragé, conspiracy of equals. I think that's Gracchus Babeuf's one. The Monarchiens, the Royalistes Purs. All right. I was thinking, how did I calculate this? So that was one take on who we are in revolutionary France. I've gotten this result quite a few times. I've also got Hébertists. So like I kind of balance between those two. Sometimes Girondin. But if you Google, who are you in revolutionary France, you should find it.